it's not always about you. Not every little thing has to be about you. What you can do, what you get out of it, what effect you've possibly had on the outcome, whether you were the main player, you were the main reason why something had success or not. Or when something comes your way, you say, well, what do I get out of this? What's in it for me? There's enough of that in the world. And what if we flipped that? What if it was not about you, but actually about someone else? And not just about you, but about them. Maybe not even a specific person, but those who are them, the otherwise, the unknown, the others. What if it were about them and less about you or me? You see, there's a story that makes me think about that. Because in our society, this is something we are having difficulty with in a large way. Watch this story here in 2 Kings chapter 20, verse 16. Isaiah is speaking to the king Hezekiah, and he has some pretty harsh words, but watch. Isaiah says to Hezekiah in verse 16 of 2 Kings chapter 20, "Hear the word of the Lord. Behold, the days are coming when all that is in your house and what your fathers have accumulated until this day, all of his wealth, all of his belongings, everything they have in their kingdom, shall be carried to Babylon, an enemy. Nothing shall be left, says the Lord." It's going to be a clean sweep. Everything's going to get taken away someday. "And they shall take away some of your sons," speaking to Hezekiah, it's Hezekiah's sons, "and they shall take away some of your sons who will descend from you, whom you will beget, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon," which is not a kind thing he is saying here. And you might be thinking Hezekiah's response is going to be, "Oh man, no, what can we do about this? This is going to be terrible. I don't want anything to befall my kingdom or to my people or to lose belongings, nothing like that. I don't want any of this to happen." But watch what his response is in the very next verse. Hezekiah says to Isaiah, "The word of the Lord which you have spoken is good. It's good. For he said, will there not be peace and truth, at least in my days?" In other words, he's telling Isaiah, yeah, I hear all that you're saying. Yeah, there's going to be some bad things that are going to come. They're going to face my sons and my grandchildren, and the kingdom's kind of going to be lost, and they're going to be taken into captivity and all that. But what about me? You didn't say anything in there about what is going to befall me while I am here, while I am king, while I am living. All you're telling me about is those who come after us, those who come after me. What does that have to do with me? Surely this is good news because it means nothing is going to happen to me, but actually to someone else. Will there not be peace and truth, at least in my days? See, far too many of us have this approach when it comes to life. I mean, to like everything as well. Not just spirituality, not just physical belongings, but of the earth, of society, of education, of life, of health, of benefits of any kind. Too far often are we saying to ourselves, well, it's okay for me now. What's the big deal if it's about a generation past me, 2 generations past me, 3 generations past me? That's their problem to face. It's okay for us now. Why do I have to worry myself about what's going to be their problem 50 years from now, 20 years from now, maybe longer, 100 years from now? That's going to be their problem to face. That's a terrible way to look at leadership, to look at life, to look at family, to look at the world. Societies have functioned based on what we have had before. It would be a really closed-minded thing to say that everything we have now today is just from those who are alive right now. I mean, we're right now going into an artificial intelligence age. Previously, we're in a digital age. We were in a technological boom before that. This talks about technology was multiplying multiple times just every few years, and now it's seemingly just every couple months we're having major breakthroughs in different ways of automation and intelligence and technology, and you're seeing some things start to slow down that are somewhat meaningless, like phones are pretty much as good as they can be for now. But There have been major advances in the world that were based on someone saying, I'm going to do what I can, and hopefully further along, they will reap the benefits of it beyond there. Because if we're honest, very few things do we have in our life that are solely because of our own efforts, our own experience. All of us have inherited something of some kind, whether or not it's not tangible or not. Those who haven't received large sums of money from people or inherited land, or they went into an educational family who had money to provide them an education, or some other way that you have maybe gotten directly from a family. But you have inherited some things. The progress that societies have made wherever you live, wherever the country has been, we are the product of those who have gone before us, for better or for worse. That, whether we have had parents, whether we have not, or grandparents or guardians, and whatever influence they have had on us, teachers, educators, influencers, mentors, marketers, whatever it has been that have had an impact on our life, paving the way, good or bad. And we're starting to see some issues as well of those who have only cared short-sightedly for their generation. And the generation that's coming past them is going to have to pick up the pieces of the problems they should have already handled. And this is the short-sighted thinking that is not present in the Bible. See, we see examples of it, like Hezekiah, but this is not a good example. It's a good example of a bad story. It's not something that we should be following after, saying, well, it's not really going to affect me. What is this my problem? Why do I have to deal with this? But what it means to be a good person, a good Christian, a good family member, a good citizen, is caring for others beyond yourself. And Jesus did an excellent job of making this absolutely true throughout his ministry, throughout his life, even in his death. It was beyond him himself. It was always going beyond himself. Because you know what? I don't think much of people who only are out for themselves. They only look out for themselves. They only look out for their kind, whether it be their own creed or their own beliefs or their own skin color. Christians who only care for Christians. People only care for those of their own race. People who only care of others who went to the same school as they did or had the same exact opportunities. Or they only care for those in their very own town, but have no interest in helping anyone beyond the pond or beyond the lines of counties and countries and nations. True people who care and love and would consider themselves a child of God or a Christian, a follower of Christ, have to exhibit some kind of interest, some kind of desire to help those who are beyond themselves. Generations beyond themselves. Because in Hezekiah's case here, he doesn't even care about the fact that his sons, his own sons, are going to have these problems. You see, good leaders, I talk to them all the time, good and bad leaders, business owners, high-up employees. There has to be some kind of effort done past themselves. And that is when true greatness can start taking place. Jesus, as he's speaking to the disciples in Mark chapter 8, verse 35, says, whoever who desires to come after me, let him deny himself. Watch that. Let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Now, all of that is really good in there if you're desiring to come after Jesus. But let him deny himself. So if you're asking, well, why should I care beyond myself? Because Jesus says that you are to deny yourself. Because if denying yourself means that you can go out of your way to pave a way in terms of a legacy, in terms of going beyond just your pressing problems in your own generation, your people, to start addressing what the next generation will be facing, problems that might be coming down the path for them, that is what truly makes great parents, great friends, great leaders, great business owners, saying this might not be a problem right now, but I see a couple years down the line, this is going to have some consequences. And so we are called, as we deny ourselves, which Jesus is saying he's asking you to do if you want to be a follower of him, if you want to really call yourself a Christian, is to be on the lookout for what you can do to make it a better place for those beyond yourself. Not just making your church a good place for Christians, making a good place for others who wouldn't consider themselves that. Consider your influence in whatever it might be, in your business, or your own interests, or hobbies, or education, or in society, whatever it might be. How are you making this a better place for those who might come after you? Establishing a legacy of sorts. They'll have something to inherit. And we're not even talking tangibly here. We're not talking finances. We're not talking land. Who cares about that? I mean, that would be great if you could. But this goes way beyond that. This goes into social issues. This goes into education. This goes into care and love, teaching people how to care for one another. As Jesus says, to care for one another, to care for your brother as I have cared for you, or to love one another as I have loved you and my Father in heaven loves me. Exhibit that same relationships with others. Which for some of you, that should be really enticing because guess what? It costs you nothing. No finances are involved here. It involves some time and it involves some denying of yourself to say, I'm going to do something for those who are beyond just myself. People on the other side of the fence, people on the other side of the border, people who have not even been born yet. I'm going to care about what they're going to face someday. Because think about it. How would you like to inherit someone else's problems? Inherit someone else's issues that they should have dealt with long before you came around. And then you're left to pick up the pieces. Did they just not care? Were they not aware of what was going on? What was it? And so I don't know about you, but I don't want to just use those excuses in my life. I want to make my family, the area which I live, the communities that I'm a part of, a healthier, more loving, more knowledgeable place. So that when my children come up, with my families, when people in my communities, when people around the world can say, man, people went before us that denied themselves in order to make it a better place for me down the road. And you know what? If you consider yourself a Christian, that's going to go a long way with people who disagree with you. That's going to go a long way with people who wouldn't normally associate with you. When you're willing to deny yourself, not just for other Christians, not just for a family member, not just for someone you love, but for all those who would consider them others or them. And so take that to heart. It's not just about you. It's about them. It's not always just about you. It's about others. And if you be, like Jesus asks here, if you desire to be a follower of Jesus, if you desire to come after him, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow him. And if you begin to follow Jesus in that way, in all of Jesus' efforts of saying, I'm going to make this a place that's going to be established for people to come to know him, to experience love, and to enter into the kingdom far beyond his death, far beyond the death of his disciples and those who would be martyred, and to say, I'm going to make this better for them. And so I want to challenge you to think about that in your own life. What are you missing? What might you be able to do to pave a way in a meaningful way for those who would come after you? Not just your own family, but your town, your city, this nation, your church. I think if you dig deep enough and you pray about it, you might find some opportunities and some ways that you can show that everything in your life is not just about you, but maybe you can start living it for them. Thank you.